Hey everybody, welcome back to another edition of Grass Tubular Modelers. I'm Dave Forrest with
Harvey Lowe.
and today, returning special guest, Dave Browne. Dave,
Hi,
always a pleasure to see you.
Yes, good to see you guys.
Glad you glad you could make it in.
Oh, it's it's a 3-hour drive, but I was at the hockey game last night, the Leaf game, and it just made sense to,
Perfect, yeah.
give you guys a shout and say I'm about, and
Love it. Love it.
We'll demonstrate something, I'm sure.
Excellent.
And anything to fill in the little cracks of the hobby. So here we are.
When you-
I'm gonna. Tamiya's got this brand new product.
I
called
haven't seen it.
Chipping Liquid, and
When did that come out, Dave?
I would say
Just recently, I think.
yeah, like a month ago.
I haven't even seen it.
I have a bottle. I haven't used it yet, but I do have a bottle of it.
Yeah, so it's
Okay.
it has its competitors, like AK I think has it and MiG has it, I think,
Mm-hmm.
and
And Tresemme?
Interests me, yeah.
yes.
Yes.
Of course. The nice thing about all Tamiya products, and it's nice if we can go back to the Hornet Hobbies episodes. I always preach that you could buy this in the four corners of the planet, being a Tamiya product. I'm sure that you can buy AK and MiG in Australia and different places, Iceland, I guess, but maybe not, Whereas Tamiya is in the four corners of the planet.
Yep.
Well,
So,
to me it does. When they release something, it's generally a good quality product.
yeah,
Like generally, like their paints are
so
top notch.
consistent.
Yeah,
They are.
their glues, their tools, just like the work that the engineering goes into their models. That just speaks to the overall quality of the product.
Yeah, I mean, the company's been around since the late 60s, and, AK and MiG, I mean, they're beautiful companies, They make products that are excellent, that we've all dined out on.
I may
You
be
know?
wrong, but trivia. Tamiya's first model, do you know what it was? Yamato battleship.
Well, that would make sense.
Let's figure it out.
So
Interesting.
Tamiya, they have the legacy. They have, they've been around for 50 years.
You almost wish they would release more, and like for example, like I'm into aircraft, so I'm looking at their 109G kit, and you can tell that there's other variations or other versions of the 109G that they can release easily
Based on the sprues.
Yeah, exactly, and the spare parts and whatnot, and like crickets, nothing. Like
Yeah.
it's
Yeah, I'm sure that they have to be prepared, just in case, because maybe they don't have their 109G on their 2024 schedule, but 25 they'll shock everybody and bring out 2 of them or something.
yeah.
And I think they do a little bit of that with their tanks too. They normally bring out a tank about every 100 days. And I was talking to Tamiya Canada recently, and it's going to be a little more than 100 days, and I don't know what their next release is, but they have sold more glue than ever and more paint than ever since COVID. People are modeling big time.
That's a good sign.
I've heard a lot of stores are out of their supplies. Like sometimes when I go, there's no thinner, the glue. There's always a supply issue because there's probably so much demand.
Well, one of the troubles is that Testers is no longer making
Yes.
glue.
Yes.
They're not. They were glue people.
Mhm.
Different,
Yeah.
styles of glue, and so Tamiya, that little green extra thin Tamiya
Yeah.
glue.
Yeah.
I think they have a ship running 24/7 over in Japan for Tamiya making glue.
Yeah.
So, they're a very successful company. So
I
this-
didn't even know
so
that
this-
they were releasing this. I only heard it through word of mouth. I didn't even know.
Yeah, they.
Yeah, I saw it on social media, and I picked it up at a store recently. So
Yeah, I've been practicing and trying it, and very happy with it. Of course, you have great control because you use it through your airbrush
right.
versus a can of hairspray.
Right.
So I could always use the hairspray thing with small little parts, and I can get away with it. But this really, you can pinpoint stuff now because you've got your fine little Iwata set. You can zero right in on the smallest of parts. So that's kind of nice. That's a blessing.
Well, and it'll be interesting to see as you go through the demo, because I know with hairspray, when I've used it in the past, like when you're spraying it right out of the can, it comes off, and I don't know if it's the way I'm applying it, but when it comes off, it comes off.
Right.
Right.
Right, it does.
Yeah,
It
and
does.
it's a little bit like you take. Yeah, and sometimes you take off more than you were counting.
If you want that, that's okay. You're right, but it doesn't afford you.
Yeah, it doesn't give you that control. So it'll be interesting to see what Dave, what you do with this.
So
here.
Dave's going to show.
Well, one of the things I found that with the hairspray from the drugstore is that I don't know if it's 100% consistent, like say a Tamiya product, but sometimes you get a little buildup around the bottom of your model just due to gravity. I think if I just sat my model like this and let it dry, I'd be fine.
Yeah.
But that's not always the case. If, like for instance, with your Tiger Tank, or you know, it's all right with a Hummel or a Nashorn to
Trying to see if you can get
Sort
that
of
off of that.
sit
Is that what you're
It doesn't have an odor of any.
Yeah, I don't know.
Unlike hairspray, which is very.
Which smells very nice.
Well, it's like a
So very
perfume,
nice.
right? It's for a reason, right?
There's no odor in this thing.
Yeah.
So you can get it with the canned hairspray. You can get a little buildup due to gravity down the bottom there, and then your characteristics.
Which goes
of
back
it,
to the lack of control.
yeah,
Yeah.
it creates a problem. So this definitely, having tried it at home, and I did it on this L70.
That looks. Yeah, that looks. I mean,
This
just looking
this
at it
one,
here, that looks
this
great.
one's really
That looks
nice.
fantastic.
Yeah, I'll put that towards the camera.
So
So
and this side is subtle.
yeah, and I
That's-
did that on purpose.
that's
you know,
good. Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
and today I'm going to do this panel for our viewing audience,
Okay.
and you know, I'll demonstrate how it goes. And now I have to be honest, I haven't used AK chipping fluid, and I haven't used MIGs, so the only one I can really zero in on is this one, as far as you know how it applies and how it. I don't know the characteristics of the other two.
So I have. So I can. So as you're using this, I'll throw in any visual differences that I see. That I was speaking to, for sure.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And I'm strictly hairspray from the drugstore, so.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
absolutely.
By the way, your hair looks very nice today.
Oh, thank you, man. Thank you.
As usual.
It's nice. That's why I'm here.
Yeah, so I'll get cooking on this, and it's a short demo. It's maybe, I mean, without drying time, 20 minutes tops.
Perfect.
But there is a key to using hairspray that some guys, and I only base this on the models I see on the tables. They do the hairspray treatment. We'll just call it hairspray treatment, even though it's the chipping. But then they don't go that extra little bit, which is put oil paints over it.
Yes,
Oil
yes,
paint
yes.
rendering over
Totally,
top of it, the Micronaldi
Yeah.
edition.
Totally.
Yeah.
They've skipped that area, and then you have a nice Panzer III in
Yes, yes.
Stalingrad with white paint on it, chipped. But that's where the
We-
modeler had stopped.
You know what you can also
And-
do? You could take a color, chip it, and then take a variation of that color and chip that. So you get
100%.
like a 3D layered effect to the chipping.
100%.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And so
All kinds of good things
the
you can do.
Rinaldi oil paint rendering, you know, open up his pages of
yes,
his book,
absolutely.
read a little bit about the oil paint rendering, and then
Then on
go
top.
over top of your
Totally.
whitewash, and
Totally.
then your model will totally be
Yeah.
the way you really want it.
Now we're assuming the readers that you guys know what hairspray is. I mean, if you Google, you'll know what it is. I don't think we have to go through the
No,
logic.
I think
it's
most-
out there. So this is just a way of doing it. But Google hairspray technique scale modeling, and you'll find the
Right.
whole
The whole history of it.
history of it.
Yeah, I mean, and most maulers I think have Mike Rinaldi's books.
Yes.
So it's all laid out in there as well. So
I saw it in Japan at a
Oh,
bookstore in Japanese.
Mike's books.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm not surprised.
Global reach. It's nice.
Yes.
Yeah, the glow. You know, he's done.
Yeah.
You know, lots of nice things for the hobby, and Meg, of course, and the gentleman at AK. You know, so things have changed
Okay.
since the beginning of Hornet Hobbies in 2003. This
Wow.
hobby has blossomed.
20 years already, Dave.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, Hornet Hobbies started in 2003, so 20 years ago.
All right.
All right, so I'll demonstrate this product.
All right.
I guess the last time I was with you guys was in May, so here we are in December. So, but I live 3 hours away, so it's hard to hook up with Dave and Harvey sometimes. But I was at the Leaf game last night, and Toronto Maple Leafs were victorious, and it was a nice,
In a big way.
in a big way. So against Sidney Crosby. So that's, you know. But anyway, here we are talking models. And so Tamiya has this brand new product chipping liquid, and I'm just going to demonstrate some of the characteristics and how it's used. And I've been practicing on these two vehicles. These vehicles, I just want to spend 30 seconds telling you, if you're at a model show or your buddies are saying, I'm taking these to the curb, I've moved on, grab them. I paid $4 each for these models. A guy was just unloading his stuff at a hobby show. And the reason why is because you're going to want to practice. You're going to want to try new techniques. Dave and Harvey are going to show you things on your video. But you don't want to take your brand new model, your brand new Tiger tank from Tamiya, and try something new. You want to use these $4 fines and use it on them. And I purposely picked the two I did because Nashorn weathering, being an artillery piece, is going to be slightly different than a combat vehicle up front. So, and I'll talk about that shortly. But in any event, I'm going to get started on this new product that Tamiya has brought out, liquid chipping. And the instructions are on the side, but if you're 50 years or older, you're going to need a magnifying glass to read what this says. So be prepared to, read it 3 times.
When did the product come out?
I think it sort of came out certainly in Ontario or Canada. Tamiya Canada had this, I think, sort of mid or late October.
Okay.
And then it started filtering into the shops in November. But it may, being a Japanese company, it could have been out for a year.
Yeah.
Someone will post that it's been out since January of 23. But here in Ontario and for our capture, it's only been about a month or so. So, but I took it, used it, very happy with it. So, here we are. So the key is, gentlemen, is to take any paint thinners you have, Tamiya paint thinners, retarder paint thinners, leveling fluid and all that, put them at the far end of your bench. Because you're going to accidentally mix this with paint thinner versus water. How do I know that? It's because I've done it. I've been obviously painting for 50 years and added thinner to my airbrush and mixed the stuff in it. And I certainly mixed up this stuff and added paint thinner and then applied, and of course it doesn't come off very well. So it says right on the jar, use water to thin it.
Because those are the same jars, right? You find the Tamiya glues in the same glass jar, just the top and the labels.
Well, and it's also muscle memory or brain memory.
Yeah.
You're mixing something and you're going to put it in your airbrush, you're going to use paint thinner.
Yeah.
But nada. You're going to use just regular tap water for this product. So, and you don't have to mix a lot, gentlemen. I'm going to do just this panel of this Nashorn today, so I won't mix too much.
And now, what's the ratio you're thinning it to? Roughly?
Well, it says on the jar 20% water to 80% chipping.
So just a bit.
So not a lot of...
so you cannot use it right out of the jar?
No, it won't get through your
airbrush. Oh, it's thick. I see.
It's thick.
I see.
It's
now, do you have to
like a heavy cream.
Does it have to be distilled water or tap water? Doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter, but I have used distilled water and I've used the other,
Same.
This is tap.
Okay.
Now, am I measuring? No. There's a lot of ish in my measuring. It always has been, and over the years you guys have well understood that. But I think that if you use too much water, it's not going to have the effect.
Right.
So you definitely have to stay heavy on the chipping liquid versus how you and I and paint. You know, we're painting sort of 30% paint.
Yeah.
Whereas this is
dirty thinner.
Yeah.
This is the opposite of that. So now, don't get into this habit, which we all have, which is put the thinner in the barrel of your airbrush, put the liquid on top, and mix it inside your airbrush. You don't want to be going that route.
Yeah.
This is a new product. we haven't, figured out all the neat little things about this product yet. So we're gonna do it properly. When I'm mixing colors with Tamiya, if I'm mixing, German yellow camouflage colors, I mix everything in the barrel of my airbrush.
Yeah, I do too.
But this being a new product, we won't do that.
It'll be a little more scientific.
Yeah. We'll follow the
Oh, the
instructions a little better. All right. So, with an artillery piece, such as the Nashorn, which wouldn't have seen, unless the Germans retreated, it's not going to see a lot of tank-on-tank fighting. He can fire shells 2 miles. So he's not going to bump into a Sherman tank. He's not going to necessarily... Now, having said that, of course these are overran and there's the odd picture of these destroyed. But in general, artillery pieces are made and not combat like this, tank-on-tank type of vehicle. So when weathering it or putting shell hits in it or scratching, better not to go down that route. And just use your references, weathering wise, it's going to weather very similar, except for the fact that it's very high. It's 8 feet high or 7 feet high. So don't suddenly start chipping way up at the top here, because the little stones that this thing will gather as it travels down the road aren't going to splash up and chip.
So what you're saying is you've got to think about where those chips go.
Yeah, you have to think of what vehicle. You have to think of what vehicle. Yeah.
Do it.
Like so many guys like to whitewash Panzer IIIs, Panzer IVs, Tigers. Well, those things really throw stones. I mean, they're going down a dirt road and they're really going to toss stuff. But, and obviously if they're traveling at 25 miles an hour, even more so.
And they're more likely to find themselves in an urban area that's built up and...
exactly. So all those things when it comes to chipping are say different than say a artillery piece.
And then if you have aircraft, when I chip aircraft, there's a certain rationale and logic to that too. Leading edge, engine areas, you just can't chip a wing.
No.
Yeah, it doesn't look right.
It doesn't look right. And you can tell someone who's just done it for the first time.
Yeah.
They will put the chipping everywhere. The chipping at the bottom of the tank is equal to the top of the turret.
Yeah, right.
That's not right.
I also find that when you chip, it's kind of, I'm not trying to be artistic, but it's organic, but it's also random. You know what I mean? Some of it, it doesn't look right. It's too round. Like if people use that salt technique, I find it's too blobby round.
Yeah, I agree.
And when you chip, some of it looks, oh man, that's it. And other times it's like, this doesn't work.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny. I say this, but you have to sort of become 35th scale.
Yeah.
And you sort of have to, you have to become a miniature. And you have to see how it's all going to unfold. Yep. And so, now I don't know how often chipping is practiced anymore. I don't know if it's had its day in the sun. But I certainly enjoy doing it. And I certainly, with my mind's eye, I see my model finished, painted, deckled, before I've even started gluing pieces together. I know that this Nashorn, this Hummel, was going to be this way, in white camo. And it's pushed me to do a Nashorn now. So I've just ordered a Tamiya Nashorn, which is going to be built up and put in white.
Oh, nice.
And so I know way ahead of time. Like I know a month ahead of time that's what my end result is going to be.
And that's a beautiful kit.
Beautiful to me.
Really nice.
And it lends itself to, you see a lot of photographs of it in white. And, they're backline defense. They have to hide from aircraft and that sort of thing. You cover it with straw and hay and, corn stalks and everything. And Nashorns kind of look neat.
You can even do a Canadian captured.
Yeah, we've all seen that photograph with the big circles on it.
Yeah.
I think in Italy. So anyway, I've loaded up the airbrush. Just going to hit our little compressor here. And away we go. So it says on the jar, the Tamiya jar, to put 3 thin coats on your model. And I think that that's, I'm going to follow their instructions. And I'm going to dry it with my hair dryer in between.
And so it's thin coat. So you're not making it like wet. It's not wet.
No, it's not. No, it's thin and.
Do you allow any dry time between the coats, Dave?
Well, I'm going to use the hair dryer here just for filming reasons.
But if you didn't use a hair dryer, how long?
I would probably wait 20 minutes and then put another one on. So within a half an hour, you're going to have the coat that you want.
Yeah.
Right.
And it dries flat, so it's hard to see because your model is in flat paint. Whereas hairspray, out of the tin, it's glossy.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So just be aware of that.
Now, you're not wearing a mask because there's no odor, although, you know,
Yeah,
you
plain
should.
water. And,
But we're doing a quick thing here, so, but, yeah.
yeah, so I'm going to now let this dry. So I'm going to take a few minutes, put my hair dryer to it, and then we'll come back. And I'll do that a couple times, and then we'll start to chip it off. So I'll be brief, put on high heat, and we'll get this going. And then you can see how it's happening. So I'll do that off camera, and we'll carry on. Okay, so I've airbrushed 2 thin layers of Tamiya liquid chipping fluid on here, and I let it dry. Took the hair dryer, made sure that it's 100% dry, as per on the side of the label here, if you can read it. And so now we're going to use the whitewash, and I use Tamiya.
And sorry, Davey, that dries so like a little bit glossy. It looks like, yeah.
Yeah, just when you get around to the second coat, there's a little sheen to it. So, which is nice actually, because what it does is it helps you visually see it on it.
Yeah.
You know.
And they're like coats you put, like, again, we talked about not a wet.
Yeah, not a wet.
Okay.
So the key again is to stay away from any paint thinner, like leveling thinner or everything. Just keep it at the far end of your workbench, because when you put the white coat on, it has to be 100% thin with water. And again, I'm using tap water, but bottled water or distilled water, doesn't matter.
Dave, do you know what I've tried and it seems to work is when you said you're mixing your white now with water, I've mixed it with water and the retarder, this Tamiya retarder, and I find it really works well when you put the retarder in the paint mix. It slows the drying time, and the water. It slows the drying time and allows you, it chips slightly differently. Gives you a little freer chipping.
Well, you see, that's what's great about this. As long as you're prepared, you know, and don't go to your shelf queens to do that sort of stuff, just to make sure.
And experiment, because I thought, well, what happens if I put a little Tamiya retarder in with it, and it worked. But always experiment, as Dave said.
Yeah, you have to experiment or you're doomed.
Yeah. I've also found that chipping works better with Tamiya paints. AKs I find are a little harder to chip. I don't know if you try chipping with AKs.
I always stick with the Tamiya.
Yes. I found AK are tougher to chip.
Yeah, and who knows why that would be. I mean, I find that chipping has a lot to do with how thin you whitewash your white color, you know, like how thin you...
But it just speaks to the consistent quality of the Tamiya products.
Yeah, like in 30 years, it's never let me down, ever. And if I'm going to a model show, whatever one it'll be, I'm going to go with what I know. I'm not going to experiment on my latest tank if I'm taking it to the nice Cleveland show or the, Torquant. I'm going with what I know. And if I've been painting with these for 10 years or 50 or whatever it is, there's no experimenting. Yeah, I know that these Tamiya products are going to respond. So, all right, so our little whitewash. And like I said earlier, when we're doing these things for our viewing audience, you can't be sitting here talking about a product that a person can only buy, at very few hobby shops. For one, there's not a lot of hobby shops to start with. But if you're living in Sydney, Australia, or Melbourne, Australia, and I'm here demonstrating a product that you can only buy on this side of the planet, what's the point?
Yeah. That's true enough.
So to me, I'm pretty sure you can buy at any hobby shop in Melbourne, Australia. So it's just helpful for what you and I and Harvey do around here in the...
Yeah, Dave, I was down in Brasilia for work a couple of years ago, and I went south to a hobby shop in a little small, whatever they call village down there, and there's a hobby shop there and they're selling Tamiya products.
Yeah. So
not cheap, but they're selling them.
Yeah.
It's more expensive than for sure.
Well, you see, those people in Brasilia have seen our Hornet Hobbies things, and they can walk out to their local shop and presto, they can probably buy pineapples as well.
I think, I think it's safe to say that in the places I go, when I go either for work or now for retirement and trips, that it's pretty consistent that you'll find Tamiya products. Whereas you may not find testers, right? Or you may not find AK. You will find Tamiya.
Yeah, for sure. All right, so our panel's ready to go. We'll just let it sit for a second. It's just sort of, you know what, I'll just fire this up for a second. And keep in mind, this is an artillery piece. Not going to get sort of combat scratches, more or less. It's not going to be banging into buildings and things like that. It's not the characteristic of this type of tank. So keep that all in mind. And keep in mind, too, that it's probably 8 feet high. Wear and tear from the crew is not likely. The crew obviously exit from the back door. So keep those things in mind when you're doing, whatever piece you're doing. Go with 35th scale in your own mind for a minute and walk around the tank in 35th scale, and you'll realize quite quickly.
Were most of the whitewashed Hummels Eastern Front?
That's a good question. But when you see photographs of the Battle of the Bulge, the tanks really aren't whitewashed.
Right.
I'm sure. Having said that, if they've taken 400 photographs, 300 of them will show that they're not whitewashed, and
there may be
100 photographs will show that some are. So that's 75-25. But obviously on the other front, that's on the western front. So on the eastern front,
probably a lot.
It's just based on snow, right?
Yeah.
I mean the snow and moving towards Germany from the west. It stayed on the ground for 3 days, and then it was gone for 3 days. So
you can even whitewash a Chiha.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah, they served on the northern Hokkaido Islands. They were whitewashed. So.
And the other factor too is it's 1944, and there's a lot of pressure on the Germans. Do they have time to be sitting there painting white on their tanks? A lot of those things are based on the drone of a B-17. The poor little guy who's been handed a white tin of paint also looks up in the sky, and there's 75 B-17s heading his way.
I'll make this a quick story. Were you at the seminar in I think it was Amps in Auburn, where they had the German tanker veteran talking? Well, somebody in the audience had asked him what the color was of the interior engine compartment on a Panzer IV, and his remark was, politely, I had a lot more important things to think about, like Russians trying to kill us.
Yeah, exactly. And you know what else? The guy mixing the paint may not hear the drone of the B-17.
Yes. Yeah.
But he also realizes that his brother was just killed in the local church.
Yeah. And he's making notes of the
His niece and nephew are in a hospital down the street. You know what?
Yeah.
Whitewashing Hummels is not on his mind.
Yeah.
So, number one, he's probably going to do a lousy job.
Right.
Or number two, he's just not going to do it.
So the moral of this conversation I was getting at is don't be too fussed about the color of the white and just go with what.
Definitely not.
Yeah.
The B-17s had a great to do with World War II. One of them was the paint color of German armor. They bombed the friggin' factories. So, all right. So it's all flat. It's all dry. Now we're going to start to chip. Now, I just have regular tap water here. And I'm just going to put a nice little coat of water everywhere. And what this does is it sits on the model for, say, 30 or 40 seconds, and it's activating the Tamiya liquid fluid.
How long do you think you have the two chips? In other words, if you applied that chipping fluid, could you leave it for a week and then chip it?
Yeah, a week is about the distance you want to go. After that, you probably have to redo it.
Yeah.
So you can see, gentlemen, in a very short time, say 30 seconds,
It's starting to lift already?
lifting up. See it there, Art?
Mm-hmm.
So very, quickly.
And you're using a pretty soft brush, too.
Yeah, soft brush. When I use hairspray out of a can, like regular hairspray for a woman's hair, I'm using a little more
stiffer brush.
Mm-hmm. But the Tamiya stuff I found just with my experimenting, I can get away with using a. So you have a lot of control.
Yeah.
Like I have a great deal of control here.
Because sometimes with a stiff brush, it takes too much off.
Yep.
Yeah, it can be a bit uncontrolled.
So right now I'm doing the direction of rain, especially up here at the top, because the tank isn't. If it crashes through say a cemetery gate or something, the wrought iron fence and gate and everything is gonna scratch up here. But what are the chances?
Yep.
Probably small. So all this is just a little bit of maybe whitewash from a heavy rainstorm. But also too, the paint was good quality paint. Like it wasn't. The whitewash paint was a powder mixed with stream water or something.
Mm-hmm.
But if the guy had time, he put it on because he didn't want to do it a second time. He had better things to do. So I'm very pleased with the Tamiya product. And in a second, I'm going to put an oil paint wash over top of this. And we'll be done. So you can do the whole thing in, say, an hour. The whole process. And then just repaint the shovel. I'm sure that when the German army was bringing out their paint sticks, they just brushed over top of them. Spare wheels and... So don't worry that, you have that.
Yeah, if it was on the vehicle, they'd probably just slop the whitewash over.
Yeah, why would they bother taking the shovel off?
Yeah, they just don't. Yeah, So a little bit extra back here, just because
I see it.
The process of this wheels, tracks moving and everything.
Yeah.
And being an artillery piece, it's out in a field versus a cobblestone road most of the time. So the stones flying up. Oh, and back here are going to, be a little heavier. So, and we're just about done.
Well, It's coming off quite easy, eh?
Yeah, very easy. It's a nice, very nice product to work with.
But nice and controlled.
Yeah. And part of that control, Dave, is the softness of this brush.
Yeah.
And then you can, as you work down with the size of your brushes, you can even,
Now, a question to both of you.
zero in on just a little mark, like right there.
For using hairspray from other brands, how long have you guys left it on without chipping? Like a couple of days, a couple of weeks? What's been
I've done it about like a month.
a month?
Yeah.
Yeah, if you put it on a month and then say walk away, life just gets in the way. Especially with the hairspray
Yeah.
for your hair. I've also had it on there for a month, but now I'm going to actually go through the process. So I give it another coat.
Ah, okay. To
I give it another
rejuvenate
coat, and then
I-
15 minutes later,
So I don't, or I haven't, but it works, but it takes a little bit longer
Does
to activate.
The reason I ask is I'm almost done my 48th B17, and I found that I'd rather, when you have your mojo, you want to chip the thing as much as you can, as quickly as you can, because if you leave one wing for 3 days and the other one a month, it's going to look different.
Yeah.
So I have to just go in and do
Consistency,
it. I don't want to leave it too long, and then I can't get the paint off. Right?
There is that, but it does reactivate. The other products I don't know. But. No, Dave, if you wanted, you could take like a toothpick, and if you wanted to create like a scratch or something.
I just don't. You know what? I can try it with this. Yeah, it's making nice. It might be
Nice
hard
scratch.
to pick up on the camera, but it's picking up a nice. And this is, of course, a soft
Yeah.
Yeah.
product. So, I'm cautious because it is a Hummel or an Ashhorn.
Yeah.
You
Versus,
don't want to overdo it. Yeah.
So you don't want to. But definitely, when you put this type of scratch on, or maybe doing it the flow of drive, not up and down, not north and south, but east and west for this type of scratch.
For a $4 mule kit that you picked up at a show, Dave, that's not a bad Hummel.
What kit is that?
Tamiya.
Wow.
Yeah.
$4 Tamiya kit.
Well, it was all built, and I just
It was built.
it was all built.
Okay. Okay.
And it had a little paint scheme on it, but I improved the paint job,
Yes.
and it's perfect for this.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's perfect.
I wouldn't enter it at a show because I can see that there's little seams and little things like that, but certainly that's not important for our process. I needed this to test out our product.
Yep.
So now when I am doing my brand new Nashhorn, I have something to.
Well, you never know what you get at a flea market. At the last IPMS Toronto flea market, I picked up the old 132nd monogram Panzer, I think it was Panzer 4, for $5.
Yeah. I mean, the hobby isn't that expensive. You can look
You
for
can,
look for $100 models if you want.
If you want, yeah.
But all right. So I'm going to let that just dry a little bit because there's water doesn't evaporate that quick. Okay. So what's happened over the last couple minutes is basically our whitewash is now chipped, and now it's 100% dry, ready to take on a little bit of oil paint. Now the oil paint is basically a wash. Here's where a lot of guys just fade out of this whole process. They chip and it looks really great. And they're quite happy, and that's great because it's their model. It's going on their shelf. Myself, I like the effects of a wash. I think it just adds another layer of dirt and grime and battlefield to the model. So I'm going to give it a wash with a 502 oil paint, and it's number 90. It's called Industrial Earth. And I'm just going to, go in the direction of rainwater. And I'm just going to start with this seam right here. No thinner added yet. I'll add thinner, don't worry. This is not going to be like a weird panel that's...
So you're just kind of painting it in right now?
Yeah, just...
So
this is the panel that,
right.
Is on the Nashhorn.
Now your median now is now enamel, correct? The oil.
Correct.
So, just to the readers, what happens if you used an acrylic wash? Would it take off the whitewash?
Well, it probably wouldn't, or probably activate
Yeah.
the hairspray
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
That's why.
Like I never would wash with
right.
acrylic.
Right. So you want to use different
Yes.
medians.
That's a good
otherwise
point,
it's
Harvey,
gonna-
because I never, other than mentioning the word enamel, I didn't, or oil paints, I never.
Because one of the things I learned about modeling is you got to understand how chemicals react with each other, and you can't use the same medium, otherwise it takes the previous stuff off.
Yeah. So this oil paint is not going to touch this
Right.
white as far as taking
Right.
anything off.
Right.
It's just going to sit on top of it.
Right. So you're saying what we're saying is that the German crew actually used oil on top so to make it look cool.
Yeah, that's right.
They weathered
They weathered their tanks.
So it looks sort of sloppy at the moment,
That's cool.
but once I
Yeah.
just start to blend, which is the beauty of oil paints, is the blending. So I'm just going down around this perimeters. And I'll keep it heavier at the bottom, of course, because of all the stones and the dirt and grime and muck.
Even with that you're doing, it's already adding interest. Just even at this level.
Once I... Alright. And it's all in the direction of rain. Alright? There's no north and south, or it's all north and south. It's not east and west on this.
No, it's true. You know, you don't need any of the enamel products to weather. Like, it's all oils.
Yeah. Yeah. Basically.
The enamel products are convenient.
Yes.
And I sure have a lot of them, but you really just
Yeah.
need the oils.
Yeah. That's true. We were talking about this off camera that you use the Abtalung oils and you mix them with the odorless thinner and you're
Yeah, you have
you're
everything.
good to go.
Do you like filters with them? You
Yeah,
can do
yeah,
everything.
you're good to go. I find though that washes with oils are much more effective than acrylic washes.
Yeah, I never the acrylic stuff.
No. Although you've used while Dave's doing that, you've used the acrylic paste, which is really effective, right? That mud paste.
Oh yeah, that's
okay.
That's different.
That's different.
And you see, when I load my brush up, and I load my brush up with just thinner, it just starts to remove it.
And you create like a bit of streaking in the process.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And depending on your quality of your brush, like don't ever throw away your paintbrushes.
Yeah, I do.
No matter how bad they get,
Yeah.
they're just going to be transferred to another
Yep.
process. So the fact that this is got the odd missing bristle and everything like that is a good thing. It creates. So once again, on purpose, direction of rain. Rain's going to come down on this tank, or snow, which is going to then melt and all that sort of stuff. If you start going this way,
Yeah.
it's going to read wrong to your eye, and you're instantly going to say, there's something wrong with that tank. I can't put my finger on what it is, but it's because it's simply rainwater doesn't go, east and west. So right in the middle here, where there's really no chipping, it's just white. Right in this area here, just by removing your wash, your oil paints, it creates a nice contrast towards a framework that you.
It's almost like you're doing like streaking, a wash, and filtering all at the same time.
Yeah, all in one go.
Yeah.
Now, the nice thing is too is I can sit here and let this dry. You know, to dry overnight, or I can come back in a couple of days, and I can hit it with some more oil paints, and then maybe back in here I'm going to put a little bit of pigment from the mucky field that this might have traveled through, or that sort of thing. So the nice thing is it doesn't quite end.
Sometimes I like contrast.
Yeah.
Because if it's so subtle,
you
lose everything.
Yeah.
So
or if there's too much.
There's too much. Contrast is no good, but I kind of like contrast.
Like Mig, he's very good at doing this, not with the white, but he'll do like a green tank, liquid, and then dust it, and then do our process here with the dusting. You know, scratch off some of the dusting.
Yeah.
Really nice effect.
Yeah.
You know, the trouble is when you get say an Israeli tank that's sort of a medium color, or World War II tank operating in the desert. It's very hard to apply what we've done today to take the dust off, because there's no contrast. There's no.
That's correct.
You know, the colors are too matchy.
Yes.
Yeah. So you're not wasting your time, but the effect is not going to be sort of white on yellow.
True.
You know, it shows up nicely on here because we're doing a whitewash versus a dirt wash.
Right.
So, but anyway,
that looks fantastic.
Yeah, it does.
That's our little $4 Hummel. And I'll just spin it around, because as you gentlemen have seen, I've been practicing with this product over the last couple of days, and now I'm happy. So now I'll move on and do it on my Nashorn.
Do it for real.
Do it for real.
That's great, David. And it's funny, like sometimes less is more.
Yeah,
less
is more.
And also too, like the front end of the tank might be a little more hammered than the back end, or whatever. You know, it's also too, like when the guy's putting on the whitewash, as the can gets down towards the bottom of the can, he might have less whitewash for the back end of the tank too. So he's gonna put the whitewash on, you know, as best he can. But obviously too, sometimes when we're painting in our own houses, you start to get to the bottom of the can, and then you start to panic.
then you've got different crew applying it, and each has a different style.
Sure.
Right? You see that, for example, on Italian camo air, where it's not a symmetrical pattern. There's another guy doing it, and he's doing his little pattern, right? And it's not always perfectly symmetrical.
Or you can see where you'll have a Nashorn that's done all white, like this one. But then the one that's fourth along in the whitewashing process, he's just got, because he's got very little paint left. Yeah. So he's just putting little X's on it in white, you know, just to break up the
especially
the shape.
This field applied, right? Like it's going to be, there's going to have a lot of variation in it.
Right. So you may have a Nashorn that's painted early in the day this color, but the one that's 3 in the afternoon, because of the not enough paint, he's just got little X's of paint stripes on his Nashorn, and the two of them are sitting and painted by the same guy in the same day, you know. So you have to think of all those kind of things, you know. So, but there's our clinic for the day, and it's really, really great to see all of you again. It's great to visit with you guys, and certainly when I get the Nashorn. Because the spring shows in 2024, there's one in Philadelphia, MFCA, which I'm going to attend on May 3rd and 4th. I'll have the Nashorn for that show. So, and I'm going to go to Gettysburg, you know, a couple days before.
Yep, we're joining Dave there.
Yeah,
for that.
So we'll have a good time, and my Nashorn will be back here sort of before that. So maybe in March or April, I'll bring the Nashorn
That'd
over.
be great. Yeah, definitely.
And we'll talk about it.
Yeah.
All right.
Thanks for dropping by.
Really great to see you guys.
Well, Dave, it was great having you drop by again. I mean, you're welcome anytime. Certainly looking forward to having you come back for the Nashorn and seeing more of these techniques applied. It looks great. It looks like it looks like the chipping fluid is another
Yeah, it's a great
another
hit.
home run from our friends at Tamiya.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, it's it's that time of year. It's Christmas, and the three of us just wanted to say Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays to everybody out there. Hopefully
all the
everybody
best.
has a safe holiday.
Happy
And,
holiday modeling.
and
Yeah.
you get some downtime and catch up on some modeling. I know that's what I plan to do.
Oh, yeah.
So
Yeah, and a little bit of Buffalo Bills action and
Yes.
NFL stuff. And,
exactly. So
you
it's
know,
a great
all
time
that
of year.
stuff. Harvey, pleasure.
Always.
Merry Christmas and Happy
You
New
too.
Year.
Yeah,
David, same.
Merry Christmas, Happy New Year.
Yeah, and we'll see you guys ASAP.
Sounds good. All right, take care, everybody.
Take care, guys.